And we're back with some more Rimworld. And today it's just the final bit of cleanup before we get off the planet. I want to try and get the ship built as quickly as possible, but I sort of want to get everything tidied up, everything repaired and built before we go. I don't know. I know we're leaving. It's just a case of you sort of like leave things, everything neat and tidy before you go. And how did a roof collapse? How did we mess that up? Well, I have no idea why, but they made a roof over the walls that were there. Never mind. Once the walls go down, the roof will go down with it. Mega Sloth Revenge. Yeah, well, we've been getting around to cleaning off the animals that are all over the map, so we'll have to make sure we get all of those. Ooh, thankfully Jadzia had the burden ability. It makes dealing with this Mega Sloth just a little bit simpler. We'll lure it inside anyway. Nothing like bringing it a little bit closer to the kitchen where we can chop it up for food. Delicious. Today's plan. Get the ship up and running before we go into it. We lose another point in score. We need to get it finished before the 5th of next month, which should give us enough time to get this place finished, cleaned up, and good to go. Our ship is not going to look pretty. We are just making our ship as compact as possible so that we can cram on as many sleep pods as we possibly can without breaking the ship. You can really stick them together any way you like. And who is shooting? Oh, hunters. One thing that always comes up though is where we're going to get the AI core. Well, that's simple enough. We are going to call our allies here, North Abraham, whatever. I think this works with any ally, though I can't be sure. Give them a ring. Give us the location of a persona core. This is built into the default. It's vanilla. This works with every faction you've got a relationship with. Though, actually, let's check it with any. We know the Empire. Maybe they'll give it to us. You need 40 goodwill. Yeah, we don't know them well enough to ask that. So if you have 40 goodwill with anyone, I presume, you can just go, hey, request the location of a persona core, costs 1500 silver, and they send the requested information. Done. No more locations known. Maybe you can only get it once per person. Let's see exactly where this is. Alright, we're over here. That is over there. That's actually a little bit of a trek. Transport pods it is. Our ship is starting to come along nicely, but we got to go pick ourselves up that persona core. So let's launch our little contents package here. We've got Lorne loaded up in here. We're going to launch them right over to item stash. We're going to drop right in the center, and then we're going to see how that works out for us. There should be 5 bears. Yep, there they are. Now let's see where we land. Not too close, not too close, not too close. Ah, yes, perfect. Just far enough away. Now, we will claim that. Oh, nope. Lauren, we're going to have you do invisibility. Pop. Perfect. Then pick up all the stuff, and then we'll go in and grab the core. This just feels sometimes just a little bit too easy. Once you've got invisibility, it kind of breaks the game just a tad. Now, once it wears off, they're suddenly going to get very irritable and chase after her, but at that point, she is long gone. Bye-bye. And that is the fastest way to get ourselves an AI persona core. Boom. Back on the map. Return home. That will be 1.3 days. It cost us a colonist for 1.3 days, and assuming they get back without getting killed, we'll call that a win. Yeah, where were we? One quick thing to take care of as well is we gave Quark a couple of operations. They've now got a bionic leg and a bionic eye to replace all of the things that got chopped off or lost. I was going to get Spock a new leg as well. They got a peg leg somewhere along the way because of an accident with the Scyther that got a little bit too close. But after they shot a bunch of people in the back by shooting through everyone, I thought, what, the peg leg is a good reminder to not shoot through other people. I was just keeping an eye here, and I saw a dog coming from up here pulling down a corpse, and I went to check over our corpse pile, and it turns out we have a celebrity with us. We've got Tynan, the game dev. As in, the guy who makes this game, he put himself in the game. There was a dog here bringing the corpse. So yeah, turns out Tynan's here. So Tynan Sylvester puts himself in the game. He's a jealous, slothful, and kind. Okay, well, now they're a corpse. Turns out they've been here for about 5 days and we never noticed. We might have completely missed out on that. It's a small world. Looks like Rolorn's back. Time to get that AI persona core into our ship. We're just so close to launch. Picard is putting the finishing touches on our final crypto sleep casket. That will take us up to 21, which is exactly enough to get everyone off this godforsaken rock. Perfect. The ship is ugly, but it should fly. Let's check the launch report. No full crypto sleep caskets. Let's load everybody up. You know what? If we put Picard in here now, just to see. Picard, hop in. I want to make sure we've got everyone ready for launch before we do this. And show launch report. Yeah, we are ready for launch. You have to select the ship computer core. You can't launch it from the sensor cluster or anything else. You have to click on the core. Little things you forget when it's been a while since you finished a mission. Let's get everyone loaded up. Before we launch the ship, though, I just want to go through some of the numbers and some of the, well, just some of the stats for this game. This was a very different game to the last one I played. The last one I played was on Randy Random. Or is it? Let's actually check the options here. Where is it? Storyteller settings. So Randy is a completely different beast. Also was on Blood and Dust difficulty because, it was my first round. This one, Cassandra was very different. We never got hit by a toxic fallout once. When I was testing on Randy, you could not go about a year and a half, your first year and a half into the game, you're going to get a toxic fallout. Cassandra just didn't seem to be very fond of toxic fallouts, or she does them much less frequently. I don't know what it was, but it made the game an awful lot simpler, not having to deal with those constantly. As well as that, we picked a completely different location for stopping. This area has 24/7 growing season, whereas the last map we stopped on only had half the season was a growing period. This was much easier crop-wise. This new design of this rectangular design we've went with for storing everything, it just works really well. It means you can pretty much move anything you want. For example, this half of this used to be a kitchen and a living area, and then we just simply transformed another area into a living area and made this a kitchen. Just the nice little box design means everything's adjustable as you go. Ooh, is everyone almost loaded up? Ooh, let's check out the numbers. Oh, damn it. I have to take them all out of the pods again. You can't actually see the numbers and the stats on them while they're in the pods. Looking at the numbers here, just from some of the shooting skill point of view, Picard here comes out a clear winner with 20 points in shooting. I think this is because Picard has the great memory trait. So their skills don't degrade as much, which means their construction and their shooting are completely maxed out. That great memory trait, it seems to be really powerful. I'm definitely going to treat that with a lot more respect in future. The fast learner trait will allow you to get higher up, it seems, but it will allow you to level up quickly, but you'll then max out way faster than you should. Level 20 shooting skill, that's insane. Shooting accuracy for everyone is pretty great. Picard, of course, comes out ahead. They've got the careful shooter trait, which also makes them really good at. But I'm kind of surprised that Guinan is coming in so good in second place. They've got to have some sort of eye thing going on or some kind of enhancements. Archotech eye, yeah. Nothing like a good Archotech eye to crank you up a few levels. You've got to imagine they're on level 16 shooting and they're beating out level 18 shooters because they've got that Archotech eye helping them out. Those things make such a difference to shooting skills. But by and large, everyone's doing pretty good on the shooting. Nothing like shooting at centipedes for half a day to jack up your shooting skills. Now, do be aware, everyone's consciousness is a bit wonky because they were, in crypto sleep caskets. It does sort of mess you up a bit. For most human-like kills, we have Wesley coming in at 75. That was because of a massively clutch doomsday they did where they wiped out almost an entire mortar squad, was it? Yeah, just also contained 3 or 4 of his family members. It was a beautiful shot. But that gives them about 40 kills all up. Cisco comes in second with 53. I think the fast shooter skill, they've got... they're trigger happy, which means they're slightly offset in their shooting from everyone else. And also they've been around since the very beginning of the game. Definitely helped out. Guinan came in third, which I was shocked at. I didn't even realize she was that much of a badass. And then Picard comes in fourth place. That careful shooter trait is definitely, it slows them down and cuts down their DPS, so I'm not sure if that's as good as a trait as I'd like in future. Everyone else didn't even come close to any of them. For mechanoid kills, it's pretty much the same. The early people, Cisco and Picard, lots of kills. Garrick 33, Guinan, still kind of surprised. I suppose she's the 9th higher, but Sulu here is the big outlier. 31 kills. They were the 18th higher out of 25, and they still managed to get 31 mech kills. That's just insane. Maybe we hooked them up with grenades at one point and let them smash a bunch of things. This stat is just weird. It's the time finding food and eating it. How long it takes them to walk over, pick up the food, and then consume it. And Picard somehow has 3 days more of this than Cisco. 3 whole days. That's crazy. We only played for 300 days. That means they spent, 3 days more? That's a whole 1%. They spent 1%. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. They spent 1 whole % more of their time in existence finding food and eating it. I think this maybe Picard lost their thumb. Losing their thumb very early on actually really affected their dexterity, which reduced their ability to eat quickly. Also, they've got an injury in their leg. Where is it? Yeah, they've got a stab scar on their leg, which reduces their movement speed as well. Goes to show you, just a thumb and a leg scar, and all of a sudden you're spending 1% more time of your entire existence eating because of how long it takes you to move and get... I need to be more careful about scars. For times set on fire, Julian comes out the clear winner with 11. 11. How did they manage that? Cisco and Picard were around from the very beginning of the game, and they've managed to keep their times on fire to 5 or lower. I don't know. They must have just got set on. They must just have a magnet on them for getting hit by centipedes. Makes no sense to me. For animal kills for our hunters, we've got Odo, our 22nd hire, coming in at 196 animal kills. They're almost twice the next best, which is Tasha, our 13th hire, who's got 105. What were you doing, Odo? Like, how did you kill that many? And you're an optimist. You're a kind optimist. Well, I suppose, can't do dumb labor, can't do caring, can't do cooking. So their only choice was either animals and hunting. Right, so they spent most of their time actually doing that. That kind of makes it kind of explains it a lot better. Next up we have shots fired. Quark comes in at the bottom, namely because we turned them into a little bit of a close combat person there for most of the game that they were around. But Cisco comes out the clear winner, 5,200 rounds. Guinan, like, the next closest is Guinan, our 9th hire. I mean, Picard, what happened? Picard is down here halfway down the slot at 2,600. They've got half the shots fired. I know they've got the careful shooter trait and Cisco's got the fast shooter trait, but that still is insane. I think we just left Picard with the charge lance a lot of the time. Still, I don't know if that's a helpful trait to know, but it was just fun to see the amount of bullets they put down range. Most damage taken, no doubt, comes down to Quark. Our latest hire took 456 points of damage. They got smashed to bits. Still didn't die. Most of them is now artificial, but they took more damage than anyone else. Next closest was Worf, who's their 4th hire, and lost his arm on his first day on the job. Still, good job. And Kira, how did she take so much damage? We were trying to keep her safe. She was our caster, and yet somehow she managed to take enormous amounts of damage. Then comes Picard. Actually, where's Cisco? Wow, Cisco's way down here. You know, when it comes down to the Battle of the Captains, it's got to be Cisco, I'm afraid. I mean, I was a Picard man back in the day, but Cisco is clearly kicking ass on the stats front. Also, Janeway is not in here. She died a little bit too early on. Now it's time spent on entertainment. This one gets a bit weird. Kira, Roloran, Jadzia, and Riker, all of them were praying at the tree, and that actually counts as entertainment. Which, honestly, I don't think praying to a tree is that entertaining, but whatever, floats your boat, I suppose. But Picard and Cisco are two longest hires, the originals. They have 21 and 19 days, respectively. Picard seems to be lagging behind in pretty much everything. I think their leg scar slowed them down, and it just meant they're slower about everything. Leg scars seem to be a big problem. It makes me think that getting bionic legs earlier is probably going to shave off more time than anything else. Even than getting artificial arms or eyes or anything, just by having bionic legs would cut down an awful lot on this. For things constructed, Picard comes out miles ahead. 3,344. They pretty much built the entire base. In fact, if you add up everyone else's, yeah, Picard still comes out ahead. They pretty much constructed at least half the base, if not more of it. They were just a monster. As for meals cooked, we only had 2 cooks, and that was Neelix and Sulu, both of them whom had the gourmand trait, which meant they kept having mental breaks occasionally, but, you know, we EMP'd them to take care of that. But 1,900 and 1,070. Headshots. Number 1 comes in, Cisco with 15, then Guinan with 11, Worf. Picard only comes in at number 10. Cisco is just kicking ass on all fronts, I gotta say. Times in mental states, Cant comes in at number 1, because they're a pyromaniac. They kept having pyro breaks and a few other things. Picard comes in at number 2, namely because we took them off their Psych-IT at the start. They had a Psych-IT addiction at the very start. Plus, they also have the neurotic trait. Probably not very helpful for them. Did not work out so good. After that, it's like Luxana and Neelix. Actually, Luxana I'm kind of surprised at. Damn. Okay, maybe that was when she was a prisoner. 10s received. This one's an odd one. Neelix comes in at 69 10s. Which I did not see coming. They were our cook, and I was trying to keep them safe as much as possible, and yet somehow, that many 10s? Also, Luxana, 22, she was our nudist hippie, and we tried to keep them away from all the shooting, and yet somehow they ended up with more 10s than Guinan, who's only received 11 10s in the entire game. I don't know, they're a 9th hire, and somehow they only managed this many injuries? That makes... I'm not sure. It just makes no sense to me. Prisoners captured, that comes down to Worf, Picard, Cisco. They're all pretty much equal on that one. Prisoners recruited, Worf coming out the clear winner with Cisco coming in second. Prisoners chatted up. Well, Worf number 1 again, followed by Cisco, Garak. Then animals tamed. We've got Tasha, Guinan, Odo. They're all pretty much top. It didn't really make too much of a difference. Garak for planting, Picard for planting. But Garak coming out miles and miles ahead of everyone. They spent pretty much their entire career doing it. Cell's mind, well, yeah, that's going to come out at Khan. Khan just had those 2 mining arms, made them impossible. Time in bed, another odd stat as well. For example, here Neelix has 1.7 years, Picard 1.6, Kira 1.5, Cisco's 1.5. I don't know how Cisco has zero point 0.2 of a year less time in bed than Neelix. Same as they're zero point 0.1 less than Picard. I presume that's just due to injuries and sickness, maybe. Never mind. Research, Cisco comes out ahead, Luxana comes in second place, and a little bit for everyone else. Time in bed for medical reasons, Kira again, the person we were trying to protect, our number one caster. Neelix comes in at second place. Considering the amount of 10s they got, that makes sense. Luxana, I don't get how they have 7.7. We tried to keep them safe all the time. Cisco actually loses this one to Picard, which is in a rare upturn. While everyone loads onto the ship, let's have a quick look at the animals. And when it comes to kills, Donkey number 1, which is a terrible name. Well, Donkey number 1 has 5 kills. In fact, all of our donkeys have quite a few kills under their belt, which is quite nice. Enemies downed, this is even worse. Donkey number 2 comes in at 7 enemies downed. Yeah, the donkey police were in full swing. Then we've got damage dealt. Donkey number 2 comes out on top again. Then we've got donkey number 3. Private Cutie, Private McLovin, and then Sergeant Wetnose. So all of the alpacas there actually did pretty good. Oh, there's Sergeant Snuggles as well. So there's a bunch of alpacas that actually did pretty good, but the donkeys came out way ahead, it seems. On damage taken, Goat. A goat do too, no idea. And Vampire the Donkey, which is probably the coolest donkey name of all time, also took quite a lot of damage. Things hauled. Spot the Labrador, 23,085 things hauled. What the... Jesus. Like, that is so much hauling that is going on around there. I really like having Labradors around the place. This is probably some of the original Labradors we got at the very start, the breeding pairs. So, yeah, once we go beyond the first few groups, it then gets a little bit sparser. But if you were going long-term with these, saying a nice mega base, these numbers would be going up an awful lot more. All right, let's get everyone out of here. Let's launch the ship and escape this rock. I still can't believe so many made it out alive. Perfect. A score of 25. I think that's not too bad. I wasn't expecting to do that well at the start. It's a difficult challenge. Oh, and there's the 4 that died. Janeway, Data, Beverly, and 7 of 9. Let the timer run on for a bit so we could see the drop there, where the drop in wealth for all 3 sections. One is items, one is buildings, and one is creatures. This here is the total wealth we had before the ship launch. Here it is afterwards. So this was a reduction of 1/3. Literally the entire wealth of the colony dropped by 33%. We lost 1/3 of our value the moment we launched the ship. There's 3 things that go into this though. There's buildings, and there's the actual pawns themselves, and there's the value of the equipment that the pawns are wearing. Now, ignore this junk for the minute. We'll go down here to these ones. This is the most important bit. This is how much value was actually lost in terms of numbers, and this is the percentage of the total drop. 41% of the entire drop came from the clothing and equipment that people were wearing, which is, yeah, that's insane. In fact, the creatures were only worth 30%, as in the colonists themselves were worth less than the equipment they were wearing. Buildings came in at 27%, but you could imagine that's just the ship. So the ship itself was worth about 1/4 of our entire base. What this means is all of these walls, the doors, everything, like all of the structures, the generators, the power, all of that is worth about 3/4 of what that entire ship was worth. Which means, yes, this is a very, well, I think we went very cheap on the defensive structures. We don't have any turrets. We researched them, but we never got around to using them. And while we do have a few benches and all that, that's still quite a small amount of the actual wealth. The surprising bit was the amount of items. The items they took with them were worth 26% of all of the items we had on the map. That's craziness. We have a lot of items on here. Think about it. We have 691 packaged survival meals, 284 fine meals, and about 6,400 potatoes, because, you know, Irish and all that. Let's see what happens if we delete some more of these, just to get a better idea of how incredibly valuable the items were they took with them. A little bit of sneaky development mode, and we deleted all of the survival meals. This had a rather negative effect on our items. It plummeted quite substantially. Turns out it was worth about 1/3 as much as all the items that they took with them. So, feeling about 700 survival meals was roughly equivalent to 33% of all the equipment they had on them, and that equipment was worth more than the pawns themselves were worth. In fact, when it came to the pawns themselves, they were actually worth way more than the creatures that we have. They were worth, like the creatures we have, all the leftover animals, were worth about 30%, or wait, 31%. So 31% of the remaining wealth belonged to the animals, of which we had 37 Labradors, 23 donkeys, 24 goats, 18 alpacas, and all of the pawns, we had 21 of them. So those 21 pawns were worth twice as much as all of those animals combined. Definitely worth keeping some haulers around, or some animals at least. Goats are a big surprise to me in this one. Goats require absolutely no maintenance. All you do is you just get milk out of them. They're pretty much the same as cows. They reproduce nice and rapidly. They're not quite as good as cows, but they're pretty robust and don't require any maintenance. Normally when you have, say, the alpacas themselves, they have a wildness of 25%, which means every so often you have to go up and tame them. Training decay interval of 10.5. So every 10.5 days you have to go up and give them some food just to keep them from going wild again. You also have to shear them. That's a completely separate action. But you say take the goats over here, they have no wildness. Well, they have 7% wildness, so as far as I'm aware, you don't actually need to, they will never go tame again. You can never touch them and they will stay tame forever. It's to do with a certain percentage, they don't actually go wild anymore. However, you do have to milk them. So they're sort of like light cows. Cows light, whatever way you want to refer to them. Still quite useful and easy to get your hands on. I'll probably go with goats again in the future. These things down here, they were amazing. The unstable power cells, you wall them in to keep them safe. Even if they explode, if a mortar just somehow managed to miraculously land in here and cause this to explode, the explosion will only destroy the wall around it. The explosions from these can't go through walls, so if there's a wooden wall even, it doesn't matter the quality of it, if there's 1% strength wooden wall and this explodes, it won't actually be able to push its way through the wall. It will just destroy that wall segment. So even though the blast radius on these is huge, as long as you contain them inside some walls and say a honeycomb structure, you can pretty much take advantage of the power they give you consistently. It's 400 watts, assuming you're willing to take them off the mechanoids. The Labradors did a great job as usual. Yeah, definitely going to go with more labs. Labradors or Huskies, either one, I don't really care. They're both amazingly great at the job. Potato-wise, yeah, the potatoes work out just fine. I know you're supposed to use rice, but you know what? Potatoes have been working out fine for me. At this point, I'm actually considering them better than rice because of the less work involved in actually harvesting them. So long as you have enough land to grow the crops, rice is just... yeah, it's okay. Potatoes are that nice middle ground between the way too long it takes to grow corn and the just about right. I'm actually going to stick with potatoes from now on, not because of the Irish theme, just because I kind of think they're better. Tiny hospital right beside the killbox area actually worked out really well. I'm definitely liking the keep a dining area and a hospital area right beside your killbox. Works out perfectly. Not putting any gun turrets. This was a conscious choice in a way. When you get those smart raiders that come along and they will try to avoid your traps and your gun turrets, if we had gun turrets set up in here, what would happen is they would have avoided this kill box and then just started chewing on the wall somewhere, pretty much like sappers, and eventually have broken in somewhere else. But because we had no turrets in here, they literally strolled right into the kill box to get slaughtered. Kill boxes themselves, now I know they definitely take a level out of the game because it is... yeah, it's a slaughtering ground for pretty much all human-type raids that get caught in here. Any human raids that come in here, they're getting mowed down. Though the pirates were quite resilient with their excessive smoke pot belts this time around. But centipedes, that's the killer. If you have 25 centipedes show up and you do not have a kill box, you're dead. That's just it. There's no way around it in vanilla. You need mods. Mods are the only thing that are going to help you survive. So I really do think a kill box is pretty much mandatory if you're playing a vanilla version of the game. You need some sort of mod to make it possible to take them on otherwise. And even then, if 25 of them come in a pack and you haven't managed to spread them out or split them up, you mean if you have one centipede for every pawn, you got to break them up, otherwise they will swarm over you. There's just nothing you can do about it. We got very, very, very lucky there in the raids. I'm surprised no one died. Quark was downed at least twice. I think Picard went down twice as well. But neither of them actually died. There's this general consensus that if you go over the amount of pawns that the storyteller deems critical, and in Cassandra's case that is 8, everyone seems to think she goes nuts, and if a pawn goes down, they're far more likely to die. You're far more likely to get nastier raids. Everything's supposed to get really bad. Now, I'm not sure of the exact mechanics behind this, but we played with 21 pawns for quite a period of time. We went through an entire engine startup, several pawns got downed, and we got shot at a lot, like an awful lot, and no one actually died, which maybe we just got extremely lucky, I'm not sure. But it just seems like this whole hype up of never go above 18 with Cassandra and never go above, I think it's 40 with Randy. It's Randy again. Randy is, yeah, pretty close. Where's that? Population of 50. Don't go above 50 with Randy. I don't know how realistic that is. Also, there's a general consensus that Cassandra is far worse than Randy. I'm still on the fence about that. When we played Randy, we were playing on a slightly easier difficulty level, yet we still got 18 attacks. He attacked us 18 times during the 15-day engine startup. Cassandra attacked us 15 times during the engine startup. I think, I still think Randy is actually worse. He's definitely a lot worse to play on. The amount of toxic fogs we got, I know I've harped on about that already, but the lack of toxic fogs, nuclear winters or fogs that take out the sky and all of that, no, it was greatly, greatly reduced. At the same time, we also had these watermills, these watermill generators. Wow, they're incredibly powerful. They just basically are sort of like a light version of a geothermal generator. And they're way cheaper, easier to get, and much lower down on the tech tree and quick to research. The only downside is your map is going to have this river going through it, and the only way to wall those in is with wooden walls, which I was worried would get attacked constantly. No one attacked them. These wooden walls are one layer thick, and instead they would try digging through the granite. I think they don't like attacking across here. They literally came in here and attacked these slate walls instead of going through these wooden walls, which are on the water. So it would seem, yeah, have a river going through your map. You can get lots of extra power very early on, very cheap and easy. I would definitely recommend it. Some final thoughts on this post-mortem of a game. One, hire more pawns. Lots and lots and lots of pawns. As many as you can support on the map you're on. More pawns, the better. It just seems like going above a certain limit doesn't cause Cassandra to go any crazier. Well, it doesn't seem to cause the storyteller to go too much more nuts. And having more pawns just means you can set up an even more vicious and brutal kill box. And more pawns mean more labour, more everything, and you're just, even if someone dies, you still don't have a shortage of something because you'll always have people to fill in. It just seems like hiring more is always better. The more pawns you have, the easier the game feels. Second takeaway is control your wealth. Definitely keep these two storage areas here. I tried to limit myself to those two, and even then it felt a bit excessive. I was storing an awful lot of herbal medicine back here and things like that. This herbal medicine will actually spoil eventually after a few years. It happens. However, just selling off things as they came in, I just deleted a bunch of flake there and things like that, and once I deleted it, wealth dropped quite substantially as well. Selling off everything is a really good idea. And by that I mean there was a massive change made that snuck by me in one of the more recent patches. When they switched from 1.0 to 1.1, they changed how bionics are valued. Once a bionic is installed on a pawn, it no longer counts. It used to be if you'd go onto the world map, let's say, and you try and make yourself a caravan, which we can't do because we have no people left. But it would show you the value of your pawns. And pawns who had bionics built into them were worth an absolute fortune. They could be worth like 20 grand and things like that because of the architect and all the bionics. But that was all cut out. Now when you install an arm or a leg, it doesn't add an arm or a leg in value to your colony. This used to result in you putting all these expensive implants into your pawns, but the raids would scale massively. Whereas the pawn didn't become 5 times better at killing stuff, they became, twice as good, maybe tops, even with all the bionics. Which meant installing bionics and architect was a net negative to the colony. But now, sell everything. Just keep your money reasonably low. Only keep as much as you need on fluid cash on hand. And the rest, dump it into bionics, install them into your pawns, and you've effectively turned that wealth into a bonus for the colony that has no wealth. I noticed a massive drop when the patch hit in the size of the raids I was getting. I used to get raids with 60 centipedes, and afterwards it dropped down as far low as 30 because all of the wealth that was tied up in architect and bionics simply vanished. The whole colony became cheaper. So yes, invest in bionics, architect, all of those parts, dump them into your pawns, make them as good as you possibly can. It acts as a wealth sink that makes your colony better, but doesn't show up on the wealth report. For the next series, well, I want to do a few tutorials anyway. I want to test out armor. I want to stop getting Bon Jovi'd by those damn Lancers. I want to figure out what's a good armor strategy to go with early on to stop Lancers one-shotting them straight through the heart. But barring a few tutorials I want to do and a bit more on cooking because, yeah, cooking, I've got rid of my old cooking tutorial because it turns out just having a dirt floor is amazingly good. We had a few cases of food poisoning, but they were very few and rare. And the only reason we got food poisoning was, one, this place got filthy sometimes because of dragging dirt in, which was exceedingly rare. But more often than not, it was because a colonist got injured and their injury made them worse at the cooking. That was it. That was the only time it happened. Though I did end up with a spiral once where I think Sulu ate a food poisoned meal or got food poisoning from a meal, and then the food poisoning made them cook more food poisoned meal. It was, yeah, I took care of that on the side. Next up, I was thinking of doing a 500% difficulty run where we pick a tribal start, 5 tribals, random start location, and then try and wherever you end up on the world map, you could end up somewhere terrible, what's really hard to survive from. Like, ice sheet or something like that, and then immediately run. Just run to wherever you can to try and survive long enough to get enough food to maybe move down to somewhere more habitable. With 500% difficulty, we're probably going to want to run away a lot. Hopefully they make it to the end. Second choice I was thinking of, though, was just do a normal start, but try and get as far as you can, as in hire as many pawns as you can, like 100 pawns, but set the map up to be enormous. So have an enormous potential map size, and then try and build a colony of 100 pawns and see what happens with Randy and how unhappy he gets once you get up towards, or if you can survive that long, how unhappy and how big the raids would get. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this playthrough. I know I did. This was quite fun trying out how nasty Cassandra is. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck.